Hello and happy Saturday, and welcome to another episode of Party Chat, episode 14. Unfortunately, one of my co-hosts, Ryan, is working today, so he won't be able to join us. But I got my other awesome co-host, Mark, here joining me, and I'm hoping that my guest host is going to be able to show up. He said he'd be able to make it, but I haven't heard from him yet today, so it may just end up being just Mark and I, which I think is the first time. I've had a few party chats with just Ryan or just the guest host, but I don't think I've had one with just Mark and I so far.
I'm pretty easy to talk to, I think.
Yeah, so it might just end up being the two of us, which, yep, that's how these things go sometimes. So we will get right on into our usual stuff. Mark, what have you been playing lately?
A hell of a lot of Yakuza games, or like the Like a Dragon series. Who it's Yakuza, formerly Yakuza, now currently Like a Dragon, and it's gotten very confusing because one of the games is called Yakuza Like a Dragon, the way Evil Biohazard. So I'm going to start just trying to refer to that one as Yakuza 7. And then everything else after that, like the one I've been just playing, Like a Dragon Ishin, that is Like a Dragon from there on out, because they've now changed the name of the series in the West. But Ishin is a spin-off, and it's a story about Edo period Japan, the end of the Edo period, so like late 1800s Japan. And it's a lot of fun. The combat in it is awesome. When you get the sword and gun style, it's so much fun to play. And the katana combat's very, very technical. It still plays like Yakuza in some ways, but Yakuza is a game kind of like Monster Hunter in the stance that you have a different stance, and it totally changes the gameplay the way having a different weapon in Monster Hunter does. So
okay.
3 new stances effectively, because you have the brawler stance that is effectively the normal Yakuza martial arts, like the beat 'em up stuff that you get. You have a gun stance that's just shooting bullets, and you have special attacks for it. I've been not using that one too much just because it feels kind of cheap. And a single katana stance where you're fighting, and that's kind of the best one-on-one stance. And then a gun, one called Wild Dancer, that's a katana and a pistol. And yeah, it's a pistol that's a 6-shooter, but it never has to reload, and it has unlimited ammo. So you can just be like spinning around, shooting bullets and fighting people with swords, and it feels amazing to play. So it's I'd strongly recommend it. It's on Game Pass right now too.
Yeah, to say, I think almost all of them are on Game Pass. I don't follow that franchise, so I don't know which ones but
I think it is every one of them except for the Judgment games. I don't think Judgment's there, and those are 2 other spinoffs.
Okay, and because I know you've talked about this franchise a bit in the past, and like I think you were saying that one of the branches goes more like turn-based combat, and the other one is more real-time combat. Is that right?
Yeah, so the turn-based combat are the newer ones. So that's the one Yakuza 7 or Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, or Like a Dragon 8, and like the infinity sign is kind of like a sideways 8. So
is that one out yet?
No, Infinite Wealth comes out in just under 2 weeks, I think, on the 25th. So
okay. That's the one where the trailer has the dude waking up on the beach naked, right?
Maybe, yeah. I've not seen the trailer for it, actually. I played the demo, because you get the demo of it at the end of the spinoff that released a little earlier this year. That it's kind of not really a spinoff so much as a side story, where you play Kiryu's perspective through the events of Yakuza 7. Because Kiryu's not the main character of 7. It's a new guy, Ichiban. And Kiryu shows up in Yakuza Like a Dragon, or in Yakuza 7, and you don't exactly know what led up to him being there. So Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, which is the full title of the spinoff that came out, it should really just be called Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon Kiryu story. Like, honestly, that's really what it is. It's him during that same time frame, and you see what he was doing up to him getting there. And it's really good too, and very fast-paced action. It probably has the best combat in the series. The Like a Dragon Ishin combat is very good, but I believe it's a remaster, sorry, of a PS2 or PS3 game. And so some of the gameplay feels a little bit more dated, but it plays incredibly well. It's not a PS2 or PS3 game that aged poorly. It's one that feels really awesome.
Cool.
The new one, though, Like a Dragon God, Man Who Erased His Name, is them like peak Dragon Engine, which is their own proprietary engine, and it looks pretty awesome. Ishin, though, is Unreal Engine 4, a remaster of an older game.
Okay, nice. I don't know, we got a couple of our friends in chat. Static 2020 is in there saying, "Yo, what's up, Static? Thanks for joining us." And L Dub, another friend on Mark's channel. Thanks for
Hey,
joining.
although
Good to see you, L Dub. Uh, so, um, I what I've been playing lately has kind of been not all over, but I haven't been playing a whole lot. But I did finally come to a good pausing point on Satisfactory. I've kind of put that on the back burner for now. I finished tier 6, which is the end of phase 3, and then the last phase 4, is tier 7 and 8, and that's going to take like, I feel like completing tier 7 and 8 is going to take like 3 times longer than just getting through tiers 1 through 6. So I'm like, all right, this is a good time to put it on hold. I'll come back to the later points. And so I've been going back and working on some of I talked about it quite a bit on my open mic on Thursday night, where I talked a lot about games that I didn't complete due to like the achievements at the end of the game glitching. So I'm going back through a few of those games and getting those last few achievements so I can get those completions. So one of them that I was working on this week is called Cryo Gear, which is a little pixel art 2D Metroidvania. And there's a very, very tiny player base. On Xbox, there's only like 70 people who have played it. And it is on some other platforms as well, but I can't imagine that it's much bigger than that. So I think it took me like 4 or 5 plays. It's not a terribly long game if you're kind of like speeding through it, which I've done a few times, and it got me in a couple of binds, which caused me to have to go through it again. But I think, and I've been in contact with the dev because of the bugs I ran into. So shout out to Polarity Flow. Adrian Zing, I think is the guy's name, who has put out a sequel, Ginsha. It's out on other platforms, but it's coming out on Xbox within the next few weeks. I think like the very beginning of February. And it's basically a spiritual successor to Cryo Gear. So I'll be looking into that. I probably won't be playing it anytime soon, but I'll probably play it at some point. But yeah, working with the dev on figuring out some of these issues. So I ended up having to play through it like 4 or 5 times to finally complete it. So I'm probably have more knowledge on the game than anyone else besides the dev, because I've played through it so many times. But so I finally finished that one off on Thursday night after open mic and got that completion for getting the last achievement. And I started just last night, but I was really tired after I was on 2 streams last night, and then I booted up some game to play, and I kind of fell asleep pretty quickly after that. But the next game I'm going to be doing another playthrough of to hopefully get the last couple achievements and finish off the completion is the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game, which didn't do.
oh, yeah, that is good.
Yeah, I know I know you played it. And I think you did a video on it as well.
Yeah, it was me and Cool Guy Fonz giving our reactions to it, and then some
Oh.
gameplay cut over top of it. Yeah, no, it was. I like that game. I think it's a hell of a lot better than the Avengers game that Square Enix put out.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people.
Honestly, I think it's better than Spider-Man 2.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I'd probably say Guardians of the Galaxy I enjoyed more than Spider-Man 2. Granted, I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was going to suck, and I thought Spider-Man 2 was going to be good. So that might be shifting my perspective in either directions. Or I thought, no, it's good in the sense that yes, it's a fun game to play, but I don't think it's amazing. And I thought it was going to be probably closer to amazing than it was. But yeah, I didn't expect much of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I found it pretty impressive.
Yeah, coming off the heels of the malaligned Avengers game, I don't think many people had high hopes for the Guardians of the Galaxy game, but it ended up being quite a surprisingly good game. Yeah, not amazing, but good. Definitely worth. I definitely give it a recommendation. And I played it on Game Pass, and I've beaten the game, but the achievements for beating chapters 14 and 15, which are the third and second to last chapters, didn't unlock. But I have the achievement for chapter 16. But so I picked it up on sale, and I'm going to go through it again and get hopefully those chapter 14 and 15 achievements will unlock this time so I can get that completion. But yeah, good game. I am
the achievement hunting.
Yep, I know.
It's making you read things for no reason. Well,
unfortunately,
you don't genuinely want to, because that's what I mean. It's like, well, if it's that one game that comes out every once in a while that makes you be like, okay, this one I'm gonna go and get every other achievement. To me, I think that's so much more healthy than being like, if I play a game, I will get every one of these achievements, no matter how tedious.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like just not unlocking them for you, and it's a Game Pass game. I'm just okay, well, whatever.
No, I totally get because like on the Guardians of the Galaxy game, I'm not bummed about playing through it again because it was an enjoyable game. The one that I'm definitely not looking forward to playing anymore because I'm so burned out on it because I've been playing it off and on for 6 months now is Assassin's Creed Syndicate because of all these
Oh wow!
glitched achievements. So not a bad game, but I just had so many problems.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate for like on PS3 or PS4.
It was an Xbox One game, so
Oh,
PS4 as well, but the Xbox version.
I was like wondering how long, but yeah, no, that was after Black Flag.
Yeah.
After,
Unity was after Black Flag and then Syndicate.
Yeah, Unity was between those two, but I played Unity and hated it, and so I didn't play Syndicate.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't liking Unity at first because they totally changed how the combat worked, and it's much more because like in the earlier Assassin's Creed game, because Unity was the first one that was on next gen. All the other ones were on 360, and Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, Black Flag, you could get surrounded by like 50 guys, and you could still basically take them all out single-handedly. Yeah. Unity, if until very late in the game and you have like super top tier gear, if you get like 4 or 5 guys on you, it's very unlikely you're going to win that fight. So it got much more realistic.
Honestly, yeah, like that's kind of fair though, because I always did find that the one problem I had with Assassin's Creed is because you're so unbelievably powerful in just a straight up fight. It's like you guys are kind of undercutting why you should be stealthy in this game. I thought the first one pretty well, but I think 2 started getting to the point that it's like, well, you're doing stealth until you're not doing stealth, and then you need to fight. So basically, this is an action game now. And
yeah, that's fair.
I think that one of the big problems the series has is that it's been going further and further in that direction ever since. And it's kind of forgotten a lot of the assassin stuff. Now, I didn't play Mirage. I heard that one does kind of go back to the roots a bit, but I also heard that it seems like a game that it has most of the old PS3 style Assassin's Creed games problems with not a lot of innovation or anything. Like it's not a new take. It's just like we made another old one of these with every issue that it used to have.
Yeah, I haven't played Mirage yet either, but that's what I've heard.
I don't know that for sure. That's just what I seem to be reading the most, and it made me not really want to go out of my way to get it.
Yeah. So, so that it makes it. They actually made like combat actually like difficult in Unity. But the thing that I think they did really well in Unity was they made the parkour like a lot better in my opinion. And they from everything that I've put a lot of hours into Syndicate now, and it looks like they carried that forward. Now, whether that carries forward into the rebooted games starting with Origins, I don't know because I've only played a couple hours of Origins.
I think my problem with Assassin's Creed parkour though has always been that it's very pathed. Like there's only certain paths that you can take up different buildings. Where it's always the thing I that made me dislike that the most though was coming off of Prince of Persia that was very momentum and direction based, and you could kind of just apply that parkour system to any kind of environment that you were in a Prince of Persia game. Whereas Creed, it's like, oh no, you have to climb here and then you need to get over here and then find a path around the building here. And I'm like, that's fine, but I always thought that Prince of Persia's parkour was so much more engaging because it and I've not played the new one. Apparently there's a demo out for that new Metroidvania style Prince of Persia game. I hear it's good, but I don't know. I wasn't very excited about it, so I didn't go out of my way. But I don't know, maybe if it comes out and it's good, maybe I'll play it.
So that's another. Let's see. Was there anything else I was going to say? Yeah, no, that was the last thing I was going to say about Unity / Syndicate. But on my open mic on Thursday night, at the end, I played through the Prince of Persia Lost Crown demo, and I really liked it.
Lost Crown's the game. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Metroidvania enthusiast, so I was definitely looking forward to it from the moment it got announced, especially coming from, I have no nostalgia for the Prince of Persia games. The only one I've played was the 2008 Prince of Persia game, which I don't think was terribly well regarded.
The PS3 one, the one that was had the different art style and it
was cel shaded.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty good. I preferred the Sands of Time trilogy, and I didn't play the spin-off. I didn't play the one that where they like Blood and Sand or something like. No, that's the 50-cent game.
Blood in the Sand. Yeah.
No. There was another one though that they made. I think it was on PS4, and it was and like Xbox One, but it took place during the original trilogy. It was like a spin-off. I swear this is a game that exists. Like there are 4 series.
don't know much about the franchise, so I can't say.
Well, you should play the original trilogy. They're on GOG, and
I've heard that those are really good.
After it for a long time, but are they on Steam too? Actually, hold on a sec. I'll check that out.
But yeah, I've heard that those original trilogy of Prince of Persia games are really good. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Lost Crown demo. I know when it was announced, not a lot of people were like, they're like, what is this? Because, it's very different from what they were expecting from a Prince of Persia game. But given that I don't really have those preconceived notions, I was excited for it, and I played the demo and I liked it.
The original Prince of Persia games were 2D side scrollers, like the old DOS games. But
that I did know.
It might have been Apple. I don't know if it was Apple II or MS DOS.
It's very old.
No, I'm not sure which one it was on. I've definitely played it on a DOS computer, but I don't know if that was after it came out on Apple II. Anyways, it's an old PC game.
Yes. And
board, and it's a side scroller. It was weird.
But Psychotic Mongoose showing up in chat saying, hello, Neo and Mark. What's up, Psychotic Mongoose? Good to see you. But yeah, so I played the demo. It was about an hour to get through it. I ended up getting to the end of the demo.
And they are all on Steam, and every single Prince of Persia game is $9.99 on Steam.
Oh,
so, and by every single one, I mean Sands of Time trilogy, Forgotten Sands. I almost said Blood and Sand again, and the one Prince of Persia, which is the most recent, like more cell shaded looking one.
Yeah, the 2008 one.
That one's got a very positive for recent reviews, even mostly positive overall.
Okay. But yeah, I really like the demo. One thing that I said on my open mic is that the Metroidvania genre is kind of flooded with a lot of pixel art games, which nothing against them. It's just I really like seeing 2D Metroidvanias that are actually like good, with good graphics, and we don't see as many of those. So
did you play another thing. The Legends one, the Echo one?
I didn't even know about that game until a couple weeks ago because on True Achievements it's not tagged as a Metroidvania.
It's quite good. I don't know that like maybe Metroidvania might be a little. I'm not sure how much exploration there is later in the game, but because it was pretty straightforward, but it has really good side-scrolling action combat. I'll say that much.
Yeah, when someone pointed it out to me, probably about a month ago, I was like, I didn't even know about this game because I don't know anything about League of Legends, but
have you not watched Arcane?
I have not watched Arcane, but I know you said watch it in those 3-episode arcs, right?
Absolutely watch Arcane. It's really good. And that will make you want to play that game because Echo's a character on Arcane as well.
Okay. But once I found out about that game, I don't even remember what it's called right now, but I added it to my wish list, so I'll be picking it up at some point, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it, even if it's not, fully a Metroidvania. It doesn't, Metroidvania is like my favorite, but as long as it's got enough of those elements, I'm sure I'll still enjoy it. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been working on lately. I'll probably after we're done here, I'll probably be getting back into Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. So yeah, bummer. Looks like my guest probably isn't going to show up because he hasn't shown up by now. So, but that's all right. We'll just get on into our topics for the day. So, for our topics for the day, I thought a fun thing to talk about would be favorite / most iconic intro levels to video games. This wasn't all. I'm not going to start with the one that actually inspired the question. But one that I think would probably come to most people's minds is that, World 1-1 for Mario. So I'm going to kind of put that all.
I think was E1M1 from Doom.
Okay.
That shows the difference. It's like, which one do you think of? It's like,
well, so the one that I actually thought of that inspired the question was Pillar Bottom from the original Halo. Because it was
I think the second level of Halo is the really kind of awe-inspiring one. Like when you're like, oh,
that's true. When you first come out of the pod.
I mean, it's a good intro mission, but I kind of think of it as the sort of
prologue,
samey looking tutorial level, because all the hallways in the Pillar of Bottom look pretty similar, especially in the OG Xbox version.
That's true. I was just thinking 1-1 from Mario, just because that'd probably be like the most well-known one. But But yeah, for Doom, I never even played the original Doom until after Doom 2016, so I don't really have any nostalgia for it. So it's not something that's like iconic for me from back in the day.
It was a pretty big deal when it came out because you could also get all of Knee Deep in the Dead, which is the first episode of Doom. I think like 9 levels or something like that. That is let's go on 12, maybe 12. But it was $5 and you could get it at the gas station. It was like a 3x5 floppy disk.
Oh, you've mentioned that before.
Effectively, it was like a demo, but back then the demos on PC weren't like demos the way we look at them now, or like PlayStation Magazine demos. PC Gamer, though, their demos were like PC game demos, so they were generally a little bit more intense, but they were shareware versions is what they called them, and they were a big chunk of the game that you could usually then decide to buy the game and then continue your progress from there. So you didn't have to start the game over. It was like you're buying the first third of Doom for $5. The second 2/3 are 50 or whatever, like a game would cost. But for $5, you can play these levels as much as you want over and over again. And that's what a lot of people did because it was so affordable, right? Like it was an easy way for everyone to play the most crazy looking video game that's ever been made to date. And Doom was insane when you first saw it because you'd never seen anything like that. Even if you play Wolfenstein, well, because Doom was a huge step up from Wolfenstein 3D visually and from a artistic perspective, and even the things that were happening in the game were like really wild and bizarre compared to the I don't want to use the word samey again necessarily, but the brick hallways of Wolfenstein 3D. There's a lot of brick hallways in that game, whereas Doom, every level kind of has its own little personality, and it's Doom, original Doom. It's a good game, good video game.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a good answer. For me, in that genre, for me, the answer would be Dark Forces, because being a huge Star Wars fan, and like I said, I never played Doom until after Doom 2016, but I played Dark Forces back when it came out, and I freaking fell in love with it. I had
remastering it now too.
Yeah, it's coming out in just about a month, I think. I don't remember the date, or I think February 28th. I don't remember. I know it's next month though, but coming very soon. I'm very much looking forward to playing that at some
Star Wars Legends canon version of Rogue One in the first level.
Yes. Kyle Katarn, who's actually stole the Death Star plans. But along the lines of where you're just talking about with the demo, I had this demo disc. So I got this pack of Star Wars games that had 6 discs in it, or maybe it was more. It had Rebel Assault 1, both discs of Rebel Assault 2. It had TIE Fighter. It had like a behind the scenes making of the Star Wars Special Edition movies disc, and then it had a demo disc for Dark Forces, which had the first 3 levels on it. So I played the heck out of that demo disc and played those first 3 levels over and over and over again. I can't believe I didn't mention this recently, because I was talking about games where I played the demo more than the actual game, and that was one of them. The one that I was actually talking about when I was talking about that was the demo for Unreal Tournament 2003. I played the demo for that a ton, but I never actually owned the game. It wasn't until...
For me, it honestly might be Metal Gear Solid, the original. I think it's very possible that I put more actual physical hours into the demo of that game than I did into the actual game once it came out. And I did play it like 4 or 5 times. But you don't get it. I played that demo 4,000 or 5,000 times.
Yes. I did. That was the same thing with me for the Unreal Tournament 2003. I never bought Tournament Unreal 2003, but I did buy Unreal Tournament 2004, and I played the heck out of that. Never online, never had the guts to go online, but I just played it against bots. But the Dark Forces demo, I played that more than I actually ended up playing the full game, because I didn't actually get the full game for like a decade later. But I very vividly remember the first level of that game very well, because I played it so many times. So I'm looking forward to playing that again on the Night Dive remaster. But actually, I put this wrong. But another couple that I wanted to bring up that were also popped into my head when I was thinking, oh, you know what? Before I do that, a couple of people pop in the chat. Sorry, what was that?
Convergence, the League of Legends story. That's the Echo game.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, I've got that on my wish list.
Marvel Echo, though, League of Legends Echo, the better Echo.
The better Echo, yeah. But Shaka Zulu's hopping in chat saying, "Hail, what's up, Shaka Zulu?" And my good buddy Vanquish AZ, what's up, Vanquish? Glad you guys could hop in here and hang out with us for a bit. But a couple other iconic intro levels for me. was pretty much it was the first 2 levels. Oh, Mark is sharing his screen here for this is the
League
yeah,
of Legends one.
the League of Legends game. I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool.
That go EKKO.
EKKO,
And,
yes.
the visuals in it are pretty wild. It's got a lot of cool time shifting powers and things like that you can upgrade and do cool things with it. And it's about getting through the mission. And the little silhouette that's behind them, that's where he was the previous time he went forward in time. And when it's almost like you have a little clone, so the previous you will kind of also do damage. It's like,
okay,
it's pretty wild. It's a good game.
One of the worlds in Braid, because Braid was a great time manipulation 2D platform puzzler. Each world had a different time gimmick, and that was one of the gimmicks for one of the worlds.
Yeah, where you had to have multiple versions of yourself. Yeah, I remember Braid. The ending,
was a great game,
but like it's a pretty good game.
That was a great plot twist too. I still see that mentioned on plot twist games all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to. I put this on my wish list, so I'll be picking it up at some point. I'm definitely looking forward to playing it, cool. Even if it doesn't count towards the Metroidvania on True Achievements. But I'm looking forward to playing it. But one of the other games that popped into my head when I was thinking about great, classic, iconic intro levels. I know probably not for you because we've talked about this before and you weren't a big fan of it, but one of my big first-person shooters back in the day, and it was actually technically the first 2 levels tied together, was kind of like the intro, was for GoldenEye, the dam and then the facility. I know a lot of console first-person shooter gamers, that was like a big thing for us. So I remember that.
I'll give the level design of those 2 levels some credit. Like they're good.
Okay. I know.
I don't think GoldenEye is terrible. I don't think it's anywhere close to being as good as Quake 2. So it was driving me nuts when people were that like the game I'm playing sucks because I don't have GoldenEye. I'm like, are you guys out of your fucking minds? Me, come over to my house. Like, see Quake 2 for the love of God.
Yeah, it totally makes sense coming from a Quake player, from all of us console plebes.
It wasn't that. I was just like, yo, guys, like, you have computers. They're like, why don't you just like install this game and play this with me? And they're like, no, because GoldenEye. I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Nah, yeah, I totally get it. Another, not so much of a level, but it just has a great intro. Was the intro to Mass Effect 2 was like mind blowing for me. I was like, oh my god, this is epic. It's basically just walking around the Normandy, but that intro segment was
it ends
up
with
their top tier.
So
and then one of my others back from the N64 era was the Deku Tree, from Ocarina of Time. In my opinion, still the best Zelda game. And then lastly, the space station from the opening of Metroid Prime was awesome.
So. Okay, I'll give you that one. Metroid Prime is good. I don't really agree with the Zelda one. I actually think the way Ocarina of Time opens is it's very slow. And it makes you do a lot of like not fun stuff before you get to anything interesting. So I know that like they wanted you to, because at the time, obviously, Ocarina of Time was made at a time when that kind of 3D platformer wasn't, not platformer exactly, 3D adventure game was new. Like, it was sort of the first of its kind in a lot of ways. So I understand that design is like, well, we need to get you comfortable with this controls and understanding auto jumping and things like that. I was like, well, I don't know. I still feel like if you give me one little path where I kind of learn all those things quick and then let me out into the world, and I think that would probably have been better, because I know a lot of people who like just didn't play past the intro of Ocarina of Time because they never got out of the village. And I mean, like, as much as I was like, well, I mean, that's a kind of, you didn't even play the tutorial, so what opinion do you have on the game? But as far as like intro levels of a game, the reason I would argue against Ocarina of Time is because I know that it's been polarizing for people as a reason to continue playing the game or not. I'm not saying that was me. I've played more. I've not finished Ocarina of Time, but I played more of it than that. And it's I don't know. Like, I've gotten a good chunk of the way through when Link is an adult, but it just never pulls me. It just never pulls me in the way a lot of the other Zelda games do.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the lead up to getting into the Deku Tree, yeah, I definitely agree, it's a little slow. But that first dungeon was kind of like Just like when the first time I played Halo, it was kind of mind blowing for me for playing a big open world game like that, because I had played Mario 64, but I've never been a huge Mario fan. So
I think that was my thing. Is like I wasn't, and I wasn't an N64 kid. Like I played Ocarina of Time later, and the time that people were most impressed by Ocarina of Time, my whole perspective on it was just like, but like this is it's the same as Mario 64. Like it's not really any more or less impressive. You can do more stuff, but when people were blown away by the tech in Ocarina of Time, I was like, I mean, it's marginally different than Mario 64, but I think it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. But Shaka Zulu, yes, Mass Effect 2 is the GOAT. Intro is the GOAT.
Yeah, it's a good intro. I'll agree with that. And it's just walking, but it's story wise, it ends with a bang.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Static's saying that the intro to Ocarina is very handholdy, but still one of his favorites as well. Yeah, Static.
I mean, yeah, like I'm not hating on anyone for liking the guy. I know I like Ocarina of Time less than most people do. I'm not going to try to convince you, but yeah,
that's fair enough.
Like it's just, it wasn't the Zelda game that I connected with ever. I connected much more with Link to the Past, much more even with Wind Waker. I think I got much more into Wind Waker than I played the hell out of Wind Waker when it came out.
Yeah, like Kay would love to hear you say that.
I didn't really like Twilight Princess, so like and that's not one I've finished. I couldn't really get into it. I didn't love that one. I like what I've played of Skyward Sword. I actually kind of want to get back to it, but I know a lot of people don't like that one. And I was playing the Switch version on with a controller, not motion controls. So when people are like, "Oh my god, the motion controls in that are terrible," I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. I'm swinging my sword with my right analog stick, and it's fine. Like I don't have any issue with it. I go side to side to slash left and right, and up and down to slash up and down. Cool. Like I don't. Mechanically, it's not that complex, man. You have 2 attacks. Like relax. I get the motion controls might have been crappy on the Wii when you had no other option, but now you don't have to play that way. You can just.
It's funny because basically all of your Zelda takes are basically the exact opposite of mine, because Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess are my favorite, and I'm not a huge fan of Wind Waker or Skyward Sword. But my issues with Skyward Sword weren't with the controls.
I don't know. I think the dungeon design in it's been really strong for what I've played so far. I think I've gone through like 4 of the dungeons, but like, yeah, I haven't finished it, like I said, but I've enjoyed what I've played of it so far. But I mean, I'm also I think here another one that I would say is very good is A Link Between Worlds, the 3DS one. That one's good. It's basically a sequel to A Link to the Past, and it uses some similar mechanics in some interesting ways. I think it makes an odd choice of having a store where you get the upgrades so that you can go and buy the hook shot or buy the bombs, and you pick which one you have equipped. But what that does is it lets you approach any of the dungeons in any order. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go and buy the bombs so I can get through this dungeon, buy the hook shot so I can get into and then get through this dungeon. And it's they're all quite well designed, and I think the switch between 3D or not 3D top-down perspective and 2D or a painting of Link going inside.
That's what I thought that one was.
Yeah, and that stuff's all really cool. I like it a lot better than the Nintendo DS Wind Waker ones, like the Spirit Tracks, and those ones I wasn't as crazy about. I didn't like that game.
I played Phantom Hourglass, but I never played Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, I mean, not my thing. I like top-down Zelda. I didn't really like that style though, like the stylus combat. Not even combat gameplay. You move them around with the stylus. I was like, I don't know, didn't connect with it. But and I think Tears of the Kingdom is the next best one, just because I think it's extremely creative, and it's one of those ones that a lot of people will be like, yeah, but it's not Zelda really, and I was like, well, I mean, those shrines are pretty damn good, man. Like there's a lot of really good puzzle dungeon shrines, and ultimately Zelda is like, all the Zelda games are a series of dungeons where you have to solve puzzles to get through the dungeon, which is why when people are like, the new Zelda games are not Zelda, I'm like, they're structured differently, but you're doing a lot of the same stuff.
It's kind of similar to with the soft reboot of the Assassin's Creed franchise with Origins. I mean, compared to the original games.
Wind Waker is not Zelda because you have to go around on a boat. You never have to go around on a boat in Zelda. I'm like, yeah, but you're doing this one. Like with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's just but the travel is the big open world and space between things. And Breath of the Wild does have a bit of an emptiness problem, but I think Tears of the Kingdom doesn't. And so like they fill out the world a lot more, and mechanically I think it's so rich that it's hard to deny that it's a very brilliantly designed game. And if I were working at Nintendo, had a vision of the finished version of Tears of the Kingdom in my head and pitched it, I can't imagine that Nintendo executive saying, okay, yeah, that should be Metroid. Like, it's the only one that it would fit with is Zelda. And I think if you made it a new IP, people would be comparing it to Zelda constantly. I don't think you would hear the end of people being like, okay, so I guess we're not getting Zelda again because this new IP is their new Zelda. I honestly think that would have been the case had they not made Breath of the Wild a Zelda game. But yeah, it's my defense. New Zelda.
And Shaka is saying that only reason Breath of the Wild isn't Zelda is lack of dungeons and music. Other than that, I agree.
I mean, yeah, I think lack of dungeons is a point that I think you could levy against both of them pretty effectively. But I think if you take any 10 shrines and just put them together, you would consider that a Zelda dungeon for sure. Like any 10 shrines in the game, not any specific ones even. Just made it so that you open this one and then it unlocks this next room and then you have to go through that room and then it unlocks this next one and you're just going through shrines. That would totally be a Zelda dungeon. There's nothing else you could describe it as.
Okay. Yeah, as I say, I haven't played it, so I can't say, but that makes sense.
Structurally different. Design-wise, not so much. I'm telling you.
I will be getting a Switch at some point. The number one thing I'm going to be playing is Metroid Dread, and then probably Tears of the Kingdom. So,
Metroid Prime Remaster would be a good one to go through as well. It's
I'm definitely going to be getting that and playing that again because that's arguably my favorite Metroid game. But yeah, all right. So for next topic on the docket, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the worst, however you want to define that, AAA games. So I didn't actually have anything in mind when nothing really specifically inspired this question. It's just a fun question I thought up a while ago, and I actually had to kind of do a little bit of thinking last night to figure out what my answers would be for this. But I'll give you one guess, especially since it's so recent. Actually, that could be a couple of different games. But the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about this, what do you think popped in my head first?
I'm not sure. I know what some of my easy guesses would be, but I don't know.
So first thing that popped into my mind was Redfall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I wouldn't have got
that. But yeah, like I said, I didn't actually have any inspiration for the question, just anything in mind when I thought of the question. But when I was thinking about it last night, I was thinking about Redfall. Yeah, that's a pretty bad AAA game. I haven't played it. I've seen plenty of reviews and people play it. Did you put any time into it, Mark?
Yeah, I played a bit of Redfall. I mean, it's on Game Pass, so you might as well give it a shot. Especially if you're going to call it the most disappointing, you should maybe put a little time into it. It's not going to cost you much. But yeah, I thought it ran like absolute crap, and I didn't think what was there was very interesting. So I put like maybe an hour into it, and that's it. I was out.
Yeah, this was another one. I wouldn't say worst, but maybe disappointing. What Static says here is Starfield was boring. I'm glad it was able to play it on Game Pass. I wouldn't say it's a bad game because it seemed like it was pretty well put together. But yeah, it didn't look like it had a whole lot going for it in terms of keeping you interested. Because you put a good amount of time into that, right?
Yeah, I put about 30 hours into Starfield. Actually, here I can check exactly.
I'll probably be playing at some point because I like sci-fi and I like Bethesda games. But yeah, it seemed like it was a well put together game. I didn't hear about the typical slew of Bethesda bugs when it launched.
You mostly play on Game Pass. It kind of blows my mind that when games are becoming big news items like that, like, are you not just curious enough to download it and give it a shot? Be for sure. I mean, I think even if I bought Starfield, I didn't buy Redfall, but with all this stuff that was happening with Redfall, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna check this out just to see if it's actually as bad as people say. I mean,
I'm going to be playing it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, I think you're leaving yourself open to a lot of criticism from fans of both Starfield and Redfall. And I mean, they exist. Those people are out there. But I think that I'm not saying that you're wrong. I think you're correct. Those are both not fantastic games in my view. But I think that if if someone came at you and says like, well, what do you even know about the game? You didn't play it. You wouldn't really have a defense. No.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm saying I don't think
Like, oh, yeah,
Starfield was a bad game. It just doesn't. It just looks kind of boring. But from a technical perspective, it looked like it was well put together because I didn't hear about a ton of Bethesda bugs like most of the other Bethesda games that come out
Okay.
on that
Yeah,
launch.
maybe not a lot of bugs, but it runs like crap on my new computer even after the upgrade. So I mean, I don't know how
Oh.
well programmed it is. I would not speak up for Starfield's coding if I were to give it any defense. I think the space combat's pretty fun when I was running.
Yeah, I don't have anything against it, and that's not even one that I wrote down.
28.3 is my game time in Starfield. 28.3 hours, 11 out of 50 achievements. So
Okay,
I didn't put zero time into it. I just stopped playing it because I wasn't enjoying it.
yeah, understandable. And that's not even one that I even wrote down on my list of things that mentioned. I static brought it up, but I could understand that. And Bank was saying is Deathloop. I did not understand how it won all those awards. Another one that
I think Deathloop is overrated, but I like Deathloop. I think Deathloop's pretty good. I don't think it's a game of the year 10 out of 10. Like IGN and GameSpot, I think both gave it 10s. That's like it's not a 10, not even close, but it's solid. It's a interesting enough design concept that I found it fun to play around with, even though I eventually got to the point that I just got tired of it and didn't end up finishing the story of it just because I like the idea of gaining the information so that you can execute every single one of the antagonists in the same day, because that's the goal. It's really just a hunt for information, and once you have the information, you can set up all the assassinations so that you can perform them in a single day. That's what you have to do. You just have to kill all the guys in one day, and it's a loop where you keep doing that same day over and over again. But it's not as simple as just you run to them and shoot them. Like they're not roaming. They each have their own level that you have to figure out with a bunch of like immersive sim systems that have characters doing specific things that you can affect in ways where you make it so that, oh, this guy is fixing this beam up here. What if I put a little, I don't know, like this isn't something you can do, but what if I put a banana under his heel so he slips on it and the beam falls and kills one of the guys that I'm trying to kill at the perfect moment. So you can set things up like that, and not specifically that, but I think Deathloop's pretty cool from that perspective. And I think the first person shooting in it is the best Arcane has done. I don't think Dishonored has better combat than Deathloop. I think Deathloop does have the better combat out of the two, and which is why I think it's kind of interesting that same studio is going to be making a third person Blade game, because I mean the story may be hit or miss, although I think having it take place in France is a good call, because they're a French studio, so they'll be able to probably add a bit more flavor to it than if they were trying to set it in America or do Los Angeles or something. And it also means that the voice actors they hire will be able to just sound like themselves, except for Blade. I imagine they've got an American guy to play Blade. Or
French Blade.
A French actor who does a decent enough American accent. No Heavy Rain actors here.
Jason. Yeah, I remember watching your video on Deathloop a while back, and I did play the demo, and I liked it. So
yeah, and that was Dispro and I were talking about it. I think I had a more positive opinion of it now than I do now, because I continued playing more of it and eventually burned out on it. But I was having a great time with it at the time we did that conversation. So that was just like a stream clip kind of thing. It's like it was pre-recorded, but it was just us having a conversation exactly like this about Deathloop, and we cut some gameplay footage over it. It's not. We didn't script it. It's just
right. Yeah, but I remember watching that, and one of the things about that though is that was during the whole Bethesda acquisition, so that was a timed exclusive on PlayStation for a year before we got it on Xbox.
Look, honestly, I was arguing with some exclusivity people making arguments on Twitter the other day, and this guy was saying like, oh, like people are saying PlayStation has no games, but we're acting like these aren't PlayStation exclusives right here. And he showed up like Rise of Ronin and a couple other games that are PlayStation exclusive, even though they're not developed by Sony. And the guy's like, why do we care if a game's first person or third party, as long as it's first party or third party, as long as it's exclusive? I'm like, you're already wrong. You're already wrong, because you're caring about like why you're just saying, as long as we're getting games that those guys can't play, we made a good purchase. I'm like, guys, why? What, like, would it really be a problem if every single Xbox game was able to run on PlayStation and every single PlayStation game was able to run on Xbox? I don't think that would necessarily be a huge problem, especially if they're still dividing it into separate purchases. Because I think that's the big step. It's eventually, I think game publishers will just sell directly from themselves or through through neutral parties like Steam. Like Valve is not a hardware developer that makes it exclusive. It's just, no, you can run Steam on any PC, Linux, Mac, or Windows. So Mac support is iffy. So I don't recommend buying a Mac if you're looking to get a gaming PC. But you know what I mean? I think that if we got to the point that it's just, if you own a copy of Starfield or Resident Evil 4 remake or whatever, then you could just log into your account on anything that you own, which is capable of running that thing and playing it. I think that would be a really great future to live in. And I think that there wouldn't really be a downside to it for the end user at all. So I always think that, like, when people are like, well, we're winning because we have those games that you can't play, I'm just like, why do you care? Especially party deals, because you're like, Sony didn't have anything to do with making these games. They just paid them to not release them on Xbox or PC in most cases too. So it's like, well, Xbox is at least smartened up and said, okay, like, the PC gamers aren't necessarily going to buy a console for any one of our games. So why don't we just sell them directly to them also? And if the answer is, well, then what if the Xbox goes away and it doesn't have to be hardware? It's like, well, they just start saying, okay, we'll make these pre-built PCs that you can use as the spec that we're going to target Xbox games for. So everything will run perfectly on this thing. You could call it a console if you want, but also it runs Windows. You can do whatever you want with it. And like, I honestly think that would be a better world than being like, well, if you don't have the right plastic box, you just can't play this thing at all ever. I'm just like, oh, why don't we just stop that?
Yeah, I think they were talking. I think they were talking about that on Side Scrollers sometime this week. They were talking about like people being upset that Xbox games going to PlayStation or going to PC.
Which no, Hi-Fi Rush going to Switch.
Yes, that's what it was. Hi-Fi Rush going to Switch, and people being upset about it. I'm like,
great. I love that. I love Hi-Fi Rush. I'm happy more people can play it.
Yeah, it's like,
give Microsoft money for it. It's not like they're making no money because it's on Switch. So
yeah, it's like, I've got Hi-Fi Rush on my console if I want to play it. It's like, it's on my console if I want to play it. If it's on someone else's console, what do I care?
Especially if you have an alternate studio doing the port, so you're not tying up the main studio's resources with making 6 versions of the game, because that's often what people say. They'll be like, well, I don't want them having to develop for all these things. It's like, well, if they do it more often, then having more scalable game design will become more popular, and it will be less about laser targeting something like the PS3 to make Metal Gear Solid 4 and more about, hey, why don't we make it so that this can run and look like a PS2 game at 720p on this thing over here. But if you want to scale it up to 4K ultra path tracing DLSS 3 on the highest end PC possible, you can do it there. But you can play it at medium settings, 4K upscale from 1080p on the Xbox or PlayStation equivalent. That is just the same system. It's just spec'd out to what those companies are developing for.
Right.
And I mean, that would actually incentivize them to not spec out too large, because if PlayStation then says, well, we need the best visuals ever, and our cinematic presentation is the thing. So PlayStations will be more expensive, but you're going to get the best experience for like 4K, whatever, And I think that the downside is if they target that, that's also cutting off a big segment of the PC market that they could be selling to, unless they make it more scalable. Because scalability is really kind of the craziest thing, because Cyberpunk 2077 will run just fine on my Steam Deck at this point. So a Linux 720p handheld PC that is basically as powerful as a PS4 can run Cyberpunk functionally right now. And you can have it path traced on X-Ray Girl's supercomputer that looks unreal. But it's the same game. And I just think if more games were developed like that, porting would be a lot easier. Not that Cyberpunk is the best example for like different versions and ports, right? But I'm saying that the games can be developed to scale. It's why Fortnite is as successful as it is. As much as I dislike Epic and dislike Fortnite, because they make the Unreal Engine, they're never releasing a Fortnite update or anything that is anything less than ultra optimized for everything. So everything from your phone or your Nintendo Switch to your 4K Ultra 4090 supercomputer can still play Fortnite, and it just looks different depending on what kind of hardware you're playing it on. And I honestly think that is probably the type of market the industry should move towards, more so than dedicated hardware, because I think more and more people are going to start being less patient about all the weird things they have to do to be console owners, like paying for a subscription to play online multiplayer, even though there aren't dedicated servers. It's just you're acting as the server and hosting the multiplayer match that you're paying Sony to be able to do. So it's like, why are you guys taking that chunk? And the answer is, well, because that's how they make consoles so thing, and they sell them at a loss. You know, it's like, that is all excuses. It's all economic excuses to say we're doing it stupid because we don't want to do it smart, because that would be better for the consumers, and it might make us less guaranteed money all the time, because we'd actually have to be competitive. We wouldn't be able to just lock people into a walled garden and just assume, well, you're too lazy to go somewhere else, so keep paying us, please. And I think that's to me how consoles have been operating for like the last decade. Not before that, really, because I think that obviously the PC gaming market and phone gaming, everything that isn't just box consoles, were kind of different in the PS3, Xbox 360 era, because that was the genesis of there being subscription services. I guess the original Xbox was when Xbox Live came around, but at least Microsoft had that excuse of like, our service is rock solid compared to Sony's. And that made a lot of people believe it. And I think that made most people okay with it. But then Sony went through the entire PS3 generation with free multiplayer, got hacked, and then it started charging. It started charging, and they've been hacked since they started charging. So it's like, well, what are you paying for then? Like, do you have better cybersecurity, or you're just like, well, this will be a good excuse for us to now make more money off these people all the time? Yeah. And like, I mean, where I get to the idea that I think people are going to start getting fed up about it is, I think there's going to be more people cluing into them like selling The Last of Us Part 2 remastered as like, okay, what are you doing? You're milking your fans to try to get more money out of them again. I even saw a bunch of people on Twitter be like, hey, does anyone have a pre-order link for the Last of Us Part 2 Firefly edition or whatever it was? And it's like $280. I'm like, that's the only reason they're selling this. They're selling this again and not just putting it as a patch, so they can release a physical version or something, or maybe even just a big collection of goodies with a download code in it, and charge their biggest fans, their biggest supporters, the people who want new and interesting stuff from them the most, tricking those people into just throwing more money at them for nothing. And I think, like, I honestly think the world's going to start waking up to that. And I think actually Nintendo is in a pretty good position to present an alternate option, because if they end up having a console that can sort of compete with things like PS5 and Xbox Series, maybe say Series S, I think that it will make it so that it's like, well, now you have a system that is portable, that has all these really, really great first party games that we generally do spend a lot of time on. That, granted, they're not alone. They're not totally innocent on things like re-releasing stuff. But I mean, the last example, one that I mentioned earlier, Metroid Prime Remaster, they clearly put a lot of time and effort into. So as much as I think it probably should have been, I don't know, it's really good. Maybe its price does justify itself, but I think it probably should have been about $10 less than it was.
That was what I thought too.
The thing is, though, I think that I think Sony and Microsoft will start realizing that they are going to have an easier time being a publisher of very high quality games, and possibly even producing their own hardware the way Valve does with the Steam Deck and the Index. I still wouldn't call them like a console manufacturer, because those are both PC peripherals effectively and like a PC device. So they're not trying to make their own walled garden. It's just like, no, here's a way to access that big garden where most people are playing most stuff anyways. And you can play most of the things, because ultimately every single Xbox game now is effectively on PC, or at least going forward.
For the most part, yeah.
And emulation, you can do some trickery, but whatever. And PlayStation is now on apparently a 2-year lag, where games will come out on PlayStation, 2 years later they'll come out on PC, which I think is a little bit lame. I actually had a video that came out on my channel a couple days ago where I talk about the only upside being it'll give me a bit of time to forget about God of War Ragnarok, and then I'll be able to play God of War Ragnarok again and be like, oh yeah, I remember this being awesome. But ultimately that's artificial. I could do that on my own. I could just decide, okay, I'm just not going to play this for 2 years and then play it again. So it's like that small upside is not even really it's mental more than it is actual, you know. So I think that those changes in the industry are going to start making people look at things differently. And I think Xbox publishing stuff on Switch, and the new Switch possibly having it be able to run a lot of the Game Pass games really, really well, will make people think that, hey, perhaps cross-pollination is the better way for us to make a lot more money. Yeah. And maybe we shouldn't have it be so that you need specifically this hardware to give us money. Yeah, because that's what I've always found weird about it. It's like, why make it so that people have to give you $500 in order to then start giving you money? Like it's always sort of the way I've looked at it. It's like, if
Good point.
your whole thing is we make the best cinematic games in the world, and it's like, well, what's the hardware like? Well, it's pretty much the same as Xbox Series X. They're nearly identical, and I know there's people that are like, oh, this game runs better on PS5 or this game runs better on Xbox. It's like you're talking about marginal differences in most cases. So ultimately, they're the same machine made with very similar APUs, made in the same factories by the same company. They're all AMD APUs. So both the Xbox and the PlayStation have a CPU and GPU that are combined into one chip made by the exact same company. And so it's like, well, how different are they really? Is there a point in them having their own ecosystems? Or if you could just buy any game and run it on hardware that's powerful enough to run it, would that not make everybody more money ultimately? Especially if then some companies just say, okay, maybe making hardware, period, is just not economically sound, and we should stop doing that so we can start making better games that cost less.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like,
yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. It's like if the game, comes out of my platform and another platform, it's like as long as it's on the platform I like, I don't really care if it's on other platforms. So
yeah, and I have no problem with people liking the platform that they're on. I think it's petty when they get happy about games they like not being on other things. It's like,
right.
What, like, how does that benefit you? I don't get it.
Yeah, I used to be that way too when I was into the console wars, but now it's like, hey, if the game's on my platform, I don't really care if it comes to yours. So, and I think that's the way it should be too. So, yeah, I follow with you there. Yeah. So, there's a couple others that I wanted to mention on the bad AAA, but one that did come to mind, but only at launch because it turned out to be a great game, especially after the recent patch last fall was Cyberpunk didn't launch in a great state on consoles. But has turned into a good game, especially from everything that you've talked about it. But one that people probably even forgotten about, and I don't know much about the game, but given that I'm pretty sure it was by Platinum and failed pretty hard. I was kind of bummed about that because I like Platinum. Was Godfall was Platinum, right?
No, Babylon's Fall was Platinum.
Babylon's Fall
was Gearbox. Gearbox is Gearbox Publishing, but I think it was a different dev, and also really bad. But I didn't play it.
Okay. Well, I wrote Godfall, but I meant what I meant by that was Babylon's Fall because I like Platinum. And I was kind of bummed to see that one fail so hard.
Failed attempt at a live service is what happened.
Yeah, because I know. Did you play any of that? Because I think Ripa did, right?
No, I think Lethal Lightning did, but I didn't.
Okay.
I heard it was bad, and I'm like, okay, I'm not like Platinum. I know does make some bad games though, because they have a couple like tie-in games and things like Korra that are allegedly horrible in play. So I'm like, I don't necessarily need to play every single Platinum game just because it's Platinum. And if people tell me it's bad, I kind of take their word on it. And I'm like, yeah, because I know Platinum is a studio that I think has always struggled a little bit financially. So they take some work and do some things that are much more in the interest of money than good video game making. That said, they also make some really good video games. So Platinum's a bit of an odd company at times.
Kind of a hit or miss. But yeah, I didn't know that because I've never played it, but someone pointed out to me not that long ago that that Korra game was Platinum. I'm like, what? No way. But yeah, I was kind of bummed to see that. But do they have anything in the works?
I actually I don't know. I think they did have a kaiju game, like a big superhero thing that was supposed to be in the same world as Wonderful 101, but I haven't heard anything about that since the Wonderful 1 Kickstarter campaign. Wonderful 101 Kickstarter. So like I don't know what they're doing with it or if they're doing anything. I feel like their Babylon's Fall debacle might have shifted some of their plans, and also Kamiya left. So I mean, at this point,
that's right.
So it's like Platinum is effectively a shell of what it was. There's probably still some people there who know how to code really well because it is a pretty good studio when they want to be. But I would probably be more interested in the next things that Shinji Mikami and Hideki Kamiya do, just separate from Platinum. Because also Hideo Kojima, God. Shinji Mikami left Tango, which is a Hi-Fi Rush studio, actually, speaking of Hi-Fi Rush. And yeah, so I'd be interested to see what their next project are. Ikumi Nakamura, too, is the girl who designed Bayonetta, and she's working on a game and hiring for her new studio. So, I don't know.
Oh, cool.
I like keeping track of the Platinum Games people, but Platinum
Nice.
Games, I guess I'm kind of disillusioned on the current state of the studio. They also got a really big investment from Tencent too, so maybe why it's like, oh, all of a sudden they're making a live service churn game that pisses everyone off. It's like, well, guess that Tencent money had some conditions, didn't it?
Yeah, that would make sense. And we got my good buddy Nerd Player Life for hopping in here saying that I like stuff that rots the brain. Hey, video games can be they don't have to be brain rotting. You can learn stuff from them. Hey, and there's Smart Chris. Hey, if you still want to hop in here, good to see you. Go ahead and click that link that I sent you. And you can hop in here, and we can.
I think gaming keeps my brain sharper than it would otherwise be.
Yeah, anytime someone's like, I haven't had to defend this in a long time, but I know a lot of people have this like predisposition towards like video games is like bad for you. It's like you spend people they have this thought that like spending too much time on video games like bad thing. It's like, oh yeah, well, how much time do you just sit there watching TV? Because video games are definitely better for you than TV because it keeps you actively engaged and a lot of times keeps your hand-eye coordination sharp, and especially like I love puzzle games, so you got to think outside the box to figure stuff out. So a lot of benefits to it, but also depends on what you're playing. Oh, that's a good question. Under Pearl's asking, have you ever seen 8-Bit Christmas? I meant to watch that this Christmas and I totally forgot. I've heard it was pretty good. Have you seen 8-Bit Christmas?
I have not. What is it?
It's the one, I think it's Neil Patrick Harris. It came out probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And I think it takes place in like the late 80s or early 90s. And somebody gets like whatever the new console is for Christmas, and all the friends come over. I saw the trailer like a long time ago, and it looked interesting, but I have not seen it. So
that is the thing that happens in the Towley episode of South Park.
Yeah. You're a towel. So, okay. Let's mark that at 1, 2. All right. Yeah, Spartacus, if you want to hop in here, we're just about to get to our next topic. And I'll give you a chance. I'll read Napoleon's comment to give you a chance to hop in here if you want. 8-Bit Christmas is basically Christmas Story, but with the NES instead of the BB gun. You're gonna rot your brain, kid. Okay, I gotcha.
I mean, that's a premise that you could do some stuff with.
Oh, okay. His work went longer than anticipated, so that's why he wasn't able to make it. And apparently, snow and wind and stuff. All right. Oh, no worries, Spartacus.
Yeah, don't text while you're driving in the snow.
Yes, especially in a storm. But yeah, we'll have a makeup sometime. No worries. So, one of the not specifically video game related, but video game tangential. I thought this was a really fun question, and I don't remember. I did not come up with this question. I heard this question somewhere, maybe on another stream or a podcast. I'm like, oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna steal that and use that for party chat. And it's like, and I thought, so if life was an RPG, what class, race, and alignment would you be? So I did a little bit of research.
Boring, like
what's that?
I've played a lot of RPGs on my stream, so I think there's no way I could functionally answer anything other than a class akin to a rogue, a ninja, or a ranger of sorts. Like whatever the fast leather armor with swords and maybe a bow or a ranged weapon of some kind, or possibly 2 knives or 2 swords or a sword and a shield. But that kind of build, not super ultra heavy like club, like bonk a guy while wearing heavy armor. I tend to want to move around faster. I'm nearly always either a human or a half elf, something that's nearly human or human, and I just design them to kind of look like myself. So like, I'm your typical just when I'm in an RPG, I'm like, hey, it's me entering this world, and I am making all the choices as me, or like I'm trying to be this character, but this character if it had my brain and my mind, my ability to make decisions, which is why I'm pretty happy about the fact that I usually end up with a pretty honorable alignment in games, because it's like, well, I'm making the decisions I would make in this scenario, or at least that I would want to make, that I would feel to be the right decisions. I guess it's a little bit harder when the consequences aren't something that you have to personally deal with, because you might say, okay, like, are you going to kill this person who just saw you do a crime so that they don't rat you out? In a video game, it might be a little bit easier to say, well, I have to, because otherwise it's going to screw my next like 20 hours of this game, as opposed to in real life where it's like, oh no, I'm not going to murder this innocent person. Right. Like, that would actually end up being much worse than it would end up becoming. It's That's your whole life right there.
So where would you say that you fall on that, the alignment chart?
I mean, probably neutral or chaotic good.
Okay.
Like, I think that's generally where I end up. Like, I don't mind being creative and having some fun with it, but I tend to always try to do the right thing, or what I feel to be the right thing based on my own moral code that I've developed over the course of my life. And if I do make evil choices in games, it is generally because I'm actively trying to see another route. And I often get pissed off too if I'm playing an RPG and I make a selection and what the character says is not the tone or means by which I felt I was selecting it. That's the time when I think I will sometimes just reboot, because I'll be like, well, I'm not saying hey, this turned out bad, so I'm going to make the other decision. I'm saying I wasn't trying to say that. I was trying to say what I thought you meant by that, but you said it's
Right.
sort of sarcastic and cheeky, and now this person's pissed off at me. I thought we were being serious. So that's you being bad, game. That's not my fault. I will save scum in that context. However, if I pick the thing that I was just going to say though, if I pick the choice that I would say, it's delivered and with the context that I would say it, and the person reacts unlike how I think they would, and it turns out bad, I continue playing. That was my choice. It didn't go well. Let's keep going. But
yeah, that makes sense. I heard that the
drives me up the wall with the intention responses as opposed to here's what you actually say.
I heard that LA Noire had a bad problem with that, or at least the remaster, because they changed like what the words were for.
I only played it the one time, and honestly, I don't remember it all that well. I mean, obviously, I remember press X to doubt. And I do remember that arson was the last one that you're on, and then when you find out who's burning down the buildings, that pulls the plot together. Spoilers for LA Noire. Jojo.
So, but going back here a little bit, Norpro is asking if you played the Mario RPG. I know he did. Yeah, I don't know how much he did.
Yeah, I streamed it all. I played the whole thing.
Did the whole thing? Okay, cool. He's working on his review right now, and yeah, I'd be the JRPG hater class.
Story, and my thoughts on Super Mario RPG remake is that Illumination Studios and Nintendo should adapt that story for their next Mario movie, because you get Bowser to be on the crew. Sadly, it also sidelines Luigi, so maybe throw Luigi into the mix. And I think you could pretty easily bring Toad along too, and also have Mallow and Gino, or characters that might be a little more original to a lot of people. Jojo, just growling at Rocky.
So, okay. So when I was kind of thinking about this question last night, I wanted to go with like a beefy brute character, but I'm not I'm tall, but I'm not like, a beefcake or anything, obviously. So I was like that, because like the last time I played D&D, I was going for like I don't remember what it was called, but the character is like human size, but is like a dragon. I don't know if it was like half dragon or dragonborn or something. What's that?
Dragonborn was in Skyrim, but I just said she's fine. Hey, I can control Jojo with snaps now. It's pretty cool.
But I was gonna
though, or she'll stop responding to them.
But yeah, last time I was playing D&D 10 years ago, I was going for a like half dragon character. It was like human size, but was like, dragon scales and stuff. And he was like, he could dual wield great swords. I thought that was pretty cool. But
I think that's
if I was going,
it's on. I think he's a dragonborn on their, what was the thing? The Secrets of the Frost Maiden was the campaign. Oh crap! I lost my zoom.
Oh, for G&G tabletop, yes.
Yeah, I think Disparu is a dragonborn.
Okay. But yeah, no, Nerdporial, I am 6'1", so I'm not overly tall, but I'm also not short.
I am a short man.
But yeah, I want to go with something like, those brawler barbarian type characters. Like, no, that doesn't fit. So, kind of along the line, I'm very similar to what you were saying. I would probably go with more like a rogue assassin type character, because I do have a tendency to like startle people and like sneak up on them unintentionally. And I do like start scaring people intentionally as well, but not all the time. But sometimes I do it unintentionally, just because they are not aware and they turn around like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you were there." So So I'd probably go with and freaking ninja is like one of my favorite things ever. So some sort of a ninja rogue assassin type thing would definitely be me as well. As for race,
as cool as I find ninjas, I think for me the bigger reason is that in games I prefer to avoid damage than sit and tank it. Like just in general, it's like I would rather see a sword coming at me and move out of the way entirely than block it. Although at the same time, if I can parry, that really clicks with me as well, because parrying is a big risk reward thing, and I view a parry as an attack. So if I'm trying to parry in a game, I'm trying to do something to the enemy. I'm not trying to defend exclusively. Because in a Dark Souls game or Bloodborne or Lies of P, Sekiro, Sekiro's different. Never mind. Remove Sekiro because you have to parry in that game. But any of those other games, the reason I'm ever going in for a parry is to throw the enemy off and ultimately do more damage to them than if I was only trying to attack. But in a game where you just block and you can't actually counterattack, if you have a decent dodge, you will often see me doing more dodging than blocking, because I tend to not like blocking in games, especially if there's any penalty for the block, like losing stamina or losing health. Because then I'm like, well, I'm still losing by sitting here blocking, so I'd rather just avoid the damage. Now, granted, that doesn't always work out because I'm not that good at video games, so often I will try to dodge and then
you are.
But I will continue learning until I get my play style to work. And it's why when sometimes people will, I mean, I don't want to say backseat because I don't get as bothered by people giving me a tip in the game I'm playing as some people do, as far as like saying, hey, maybe you should try this, because it might actually nudge me to explore a mechanic that I might not ever have interacted with just playing on my own. But very often I will, especially if it's a Souls game or something where I do have a good feel for the character I'm using, I tend to want to figure out how to work out a strategy whereby my playstyle can defeat that boss, not necessarily switch playstyles. If you're following me,
yeah, so, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
And dodging and parrying are my jam more so than blocking.
Yes. As for race, the first thing I thought of was health, elf or half elf. I was like, yeah, I don't know if that would quite be me. So I was kind of looking around at different races, and I don't think I've ever actually played Elder Scrolls as this race, but I was thinking, Argonian, the lizard people from Elder Scrolls would be pretty accurate, because like I've spent a lot of time in the water, because they can breathe in underwater in the Elder Scrolls franchise. And I grew up like in the water a lot as a kid, so I'm a very strong swimmer, and I don't do as much swimming now, but I thought that kind of connected with me, because I like water and swimming and scuba diving and boogie boarding. I've never surfed, but I've always wanted to.
For me, when it comes to alien races like that, and alien being like non-human looking, but the instant thing I go to is like, oh man, what's sex gonna be like though?
That did not cross my mind until just now, but that's a good point.
Mating with human women, or is it like, do I have to wrap my head around this lizard humanoid form being what I got to start learning to like? Because that's all that's on the table. I don't know what kind of parts they have, what the reproductive system is like,
That's a very good point. I had not considered that.
Something like a Vulcan, though, and it wouldn't be a problem. Like, like there's certain other races, even elves, like too. That's generally the go-to one, but humanoid really don't look too different from humans. So even it's like, no, you can never mate with a human again. You need to only be with this species. It's like, I mean, okay, fine. I think the one that would take some thinking though would be the Na'vi. It's like, okay. I mean. Yeah, they're pretty badass, and I guess Natiri's like, she's fairly attractive, I suppose, but it's like no human women ever again though. Like, we're only going to be with the cat people, huh?
Insidious Bliss here. What's up, Insidious Bliss? A Neo being a lizard person explains a lot. And what's up? I saw Jonathan Davis hopping in the chat earlier as well. What's up, Jonathan Davis? But another thing that I thought kind of connected me with them pretty well is they're also immune or have a very high tolerance to disease and poison in Elder Scrolls. And
yeah, that's good too.
And not right now, because I've been kind of like I've had like this really long cold over like the last month, but other than then that's so it's not making a good point right now. But I legitimately like never ever get sick, so I thought that kind of connected with me as well. So I was like, yeah, you know what, Argonian would probably be a good race to go with.
Like how? What is their? Their bodies have to have some kind of downside though, because I have no idea what it would feel like to have scales, but I feel like it might not feel the same as skin. So I don't know that I particularly care for that sense. That's what I mean. Like I was like, if you're picking this, like which character would you actually like to become? It's some of these choices, man, are I think kind of wild. Like you're rolling a lot of dice.
Where I was coming from it is like, you know, what not necessarily what you would want to be, but like if a race or alignment or character in a video game was most like you in our world, what would that be? Is kind of where I was coming from with that.
More like us wanting to be them and more them being similar to us regardless. Like just
that's kind of where I was coming from with that question, but it's
in that case,
to whatever interpretation you want.
I'd probably be like a hobbit or something, like just a one-legged hobbit who sits around with puppies and
a beast tamer.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, yeah, because I like animals. I just
like animals.
Don't have. But as for alignment, I was right there with you. I was thinking like I would probably be chaotic good, because I've always thought of on that alignment chart, one of my favorite Jedi that I not necessarily like my favorite Jedi, but one that I connect with on like a philosophical level the best is Qui-Gon, and I would say he's chaotic good because like he kind of, even though he knows like what he's supposed to do, he'll still do something different. What's that?
The dice roll that he rigs the dice roll against Watto. That's kind of big. Like, hey, that's not really a very Jedi move, but he's like, yeah, well, like this is for the fate of the universe. Okay,
exactly. He'll kind of fudge the rules to get the outcome because he knows it's even though it's not like morally correct, it's gonna come out with the best result, sort of thing.
One morally incorrect action to do the good of several morally correct actions in the place of this boy and his mother being enslaved indefinitely.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm trying to free him from slavery, so yeah, I'm going to make sure I win. Ultimately, get down to lightsabers, and I don't think Watto is going to be able to take me. So trust me, this is for him too. Because I'm not leaving without the kid. Ultimately, is Qui-Gon's position. It's like this is the way to do it, where it seems fair and square, and it's Watto's not going to have
the least feathers.
No one's going to need to get hacked in half with a lightsaber.
So yeah, I would say a chaotic good would probably be most close to me. So even if there's a rule that says like don't do this, like I'm going to question. It's like, oh yeah, well why? And if the reason is dumb, then I don't think that should apply to me. So. But yeah, so that's where I kind of fall on the RPG class race alignment. So I thought that would just be a fun discussion topic. So Mark is disrespecting to all the lizard kind right now.
I mean,
Underproiled
one. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't want to be a lizard in our world either.
But Nerdpoil's taking off. See you later, Nerdpoil. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. Definitely got to do a Chiporeal part 2. Yes, let's do a Chiporeal part 2. And Spartacus saying Qui-Gon more so called the will of the Force over the Council, who more so. Yes, exactly. Listen to the will of the Force over the Council or the politicians. Exactly. So, yeah. So okay. Got a little bit more time, so I think I got enough time for one more question. I think this one will probably be pretty quick. I think. Who knows if we go on another tangent? But I think I'll save that question for later. I think we'll go to the last one here on the list here. One that I've kind of put on the agenda for a bunch of the last few party chats. We just haven't gotten around to it since we've got not as much to talk about this one. I thought it would be good to touch on it. Is most annoying enemy types, and
for me.
What's that?
Right, any enemy type that runs up to you and explodes. That's like my final answer. It's the kind of enemy I hate most in all games, and there's lots of games I love that have them.
That's a good answer. I have two, but the one that inspired the question for me, and I know you get this because you're a big fan of it too. One of my favorite games of all time is Ninja Gaiden Black. The incendiary shuriken ninjas. Yeah, those guys are so annoying because they just spam the incendiary shurikens, which are the ones that stick in you and they'll explode.
Yeah,
and they throw them like crazy. If they hit you, it staggers you or knocks you out of your combo. And once you get hit with one, the only way to not take damage from it is if you do your roll at the exact right time so that it explodes during your iframe. Once it's in you, if you don't do that at just the right time, it'll explode. And sometimes you can have multiple ones in you and they'll all explode all at the same time.
Yeah,
You'll take a whole bunch of damage.
You can't be, and you can't roll your way out of all of them because
right.
you have that many iframes.
I hate those guys. So that was the inspiration for the question. Those guys are so annoying. But another one that I thought of that immediately came to mind is I don't really know of many other enemy types that do this, but the redeads in Zelda, where when they see you, you freeze and you can't move for whatever the amount of time is.
Yeah, any stuns and things that pull control away from the player are generally kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But, so it's I think I still got to go with the explodey guys.
Yeah, that's
what spawns in Quake, like one of my favorite games of all time, and yeah, explodey enemies that I hate.
I was gonna say, what's
I hate the chapter that they're in or the episode. It's still don't like them.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to ask you what's an example of an exploding enemy, because I just can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know I've fought plenty of them.
Enemy in a game that runs up to you and explodes as its primary attack. Like there's lots of them. Like, so like I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's one in every Mega Man game. I'll say that much. And like it's just one that there's so many that I don't even know like where to actually begin. Here, yeah, Serious Sam. There's the ones with the big arms that run.
Oh, and they yell super loud. Oh my god, that yell is so annoying.
That's one of the reasons I hate that game. I'm not a Serious Sam fan because I'm like, no, like your primary enemy is run up and explodey guys. No, I hate that type of enemy. I'm sorry, I don't like this game.
Thinking about it, I thought of the dual plasma grenade holding grunts.
Yeah, although I mean they're pretty slow. Yeah, though they can be really annoying in a fight if you just miss one of them. But they don't run that fast and they're glowing like I mean they're the plasma grenades are hard to miss visually, so I don't think those ones are a bad example, but that would be an example.
Yeah, that totally gets you on the
anytime those things fly too. If it's a flying one that just zooms at you and explodes,
oh crap. And then there's a bunch of other grenades at your feet and they all explode at one time and they launch you sky high.
That can happen.
Oh no, it's entertaining.
I was just talking about trope-wise, the design of an enemy that is flying in any segment that will spot you and then just speed at you and kill you, like kill you with an explosion. Because what that is intended to do is have you shoot that thing really quick before it gets to you, and that's usually the means by which to deal with this type of enemy. Which I appreciate that much, but I hate it. It's like Don't make it an attack that I have to dodge or that I can shoot the missile that they fire at me or something like that if you want that. But having it be the enemy itself, it's like I have no option other than to stand in this thing's line of fire and hopefully kill it before it gets to me. I can't be any more creative than that. Really. Unless I just flat out run away. And I don't know.
That's an excellent answer though. So all right. And Spartacus saying so close to home. Sorry, missed the show. No worries, man. We'll make it happen another time. You just drive safe. Be safe in your storm, because I know that some of the other parts of the country are having some crazy weather right now. So, all right. That was well. I think that will wrap it up for episode 14. That was a fun discussion. Mark, what do you got going on coming up?
Well, I've been streaming the Yakuza games a lot with the puppies. I got Infinite Wealth is coming out in just under 2 weeks, which is the new game. And so I've been trying to help my audience catch up on the series and get some context. The one that I really just got pulled into is the Samurai spinoff I talked about at the beginning of the show. But we've also been playing for a second run, Like a Dragon Gaiden, the Man Who Erased His Name, with the English voice. So we've been experiencing young, as Kiryu.
Dub, not sub, huh?
Well, I played it subbed about a month ago. So I finished the game, and now it's a pretty short one. So and it also takes place immediately before the next one as well. And we replayed Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the other game that takes place right before this one. It's the two paths that converge in the new game. So
Gotcha.
it's more for keeping people up to date on it, so that they're not lost in the story. Or if I don't think you'll ever be lost, because Yakuza games, they tend to give you the background information you need when they're kind of written like comics. I would almost consider it similar to reading a manga, where you can kind of jump in anywhere and you'll be relatively caught up to what you need to know to understand the situation in the chapter that you just started playing. And I mean chapter too. Like, you don't even necessarily need to play an entire game. You can kind of jump in at any beginning of a chapter to an end of a chapter and get a really solid, complete story that will link to the next ones, but is kind of its own little arc that just happened. And it's one of the things that I think is really wonderful about those games. And I think they're kind of amazing. And and the other one that we've been playing is Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, which is the one that takes place prior to the other 2 games that lead into the one. So 7 is the most recent one previously, 8's the one coming out, and we are also playing 6. So, and I'm basically doing a chapter of each and then switching. And yesterday we got through 2 chapters of Ishin and 1 chapter each of Man Who Erased His Name and Yakuza 6. So they're not that, like, I was playing, granted, a stream for like 7 hours, but at the same time, that's a fair amount of progress in one day. So we're powering through them pretty quickly. Generally, they're about 15 chapters per game.
Okay.
And Man Who Erased His Name has 5. Shorter.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, let's see here. So, yeah, the only other thing I've got coming up will be open mic on Thursday night. I don't have anyone lined up, so if anyone wants to come on open mic and just talk games with me, let me know. I did Thursday night's open mic was great. It was just me talking about achievements and played through the Prince Persia Lost Crown demo. And my thoughts on that, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing the game
today.
I'm looking forward to playing it. Probably won't be playing it soon, but I will be playing it at some point.
I probably have to go to like Ubisoft Connect to get it, don't I?
The PC version, I don't know. I played it on Xbox, so. And then last night, dude 12869 and I did our episode 3 of Achievement Chasers, talking about our achievement hunting adventures over the course of December. And then well, that's about it. So go check that out if any of that sounds interesting to you, or if you want to watch Mark stream a lot of the Yakuza games. Go check that out. So thank you everyone who showed up in chat today. See Spark Chris, Jonathan Davis, Nerdporial, Psychotic Mongoose, L-Dub, Insidious Bliss. Thanks for hanging out with us today, you guys. We'll catch you later. Everyone in the meantime, game on.